Have you ever felt that inexplicable chill when passing through an old cemetery? As if something was alive there watching your every step? Today we're going to delve into a dark and mysterious story where ancient secrets, a lost cult and an unholy ritual transformed the soil of a village into a portal to the unknown. Get ready to explore hidden catacombs, face living shadows and unravel echoes from beyond that reveal the true horror of a forgotten grave. We'll discover what's hidden beneath the tombs, but be careful. Some doors were made to remain closed. Stay until the end and discover how the cold flames of a demonic pact still burn in the darkness, leaving an indelible mark on our world. And if you think you have the courage to face these cursed stories, leave your comment with asterisk, I face the unknown. Asterisk and share this video with someone who likes terrifying mysteries. Let's get started, but remember, what's buried is not always dead. What lies hidden beneath the graves asterisk asterisk? The village of Wardenfield seemed forgotten by time. Among hills shrouded in a dark mist, ancient tombs rose, their stones worn by wind and rain. It was a place that carried an invisible weight, as if dark secrets whispered among the graves. When the team of archaeologists arrived at the village, they were greeted with suspicious looks from the few remaining residents. The team leader, Dr. Alan Greger, was undeterred. For him, this expedition was a golden opportunity. Rumors of a sealed crypt beneath the cemetery could reveal an archaeological mystery never before seen. The excavations began the next morning under a gray sky. Tools dug into the cold, damp soil, revealing an entrance covered by thick roots. The opening was protected by rusty chains and ancient symbols carved into the stone. Marks that archaeologist Emily, an expert in lost languages, identified as a warning. Asterisk, do not open. Here lies what must not be awakened. Asterisk. Emily read, her voice wavering. Alan laughed. To him, it was just an exaggeration of medieval beliefs. With effort, the team broke the chains and opened the passage. A smell of rot filled the air, and the darkness seemed to swallow the light of the lanterns. Inside, the archaeologists discovered a chamber decorated with ritualistic symbols carved into the walls. In the center was a stone table stained with dried blood, and around it were piles of human bones arranged in disturbing patterns. On the floor, a macabre relic caught Emily's attention, an amulet with demonic inscriptions. As the team explored the place, sounds began to echo. They were faint at first, like whispers in the dark. But soon they became distant screams as if coming from another dimension. Asterisk, did anyone else hear that? Asterisk, Marco, the group's photographer, asked. No one answered. But everyone felt the same chill as if they were being watched by invisible eyes. As night fell, the discoveries became more unsettling. Emily found a dusty diary, written by an ancient village priest. It described a lost cult that worshipped otherworldly entities. The diary spoke of a demonic pact made to obtain power, at the cost of forbidden sacrifices, including children from the village. Alan ignored the warnings in the diary, convinced that he was in front of a cursed story that would make his career take off. But Emily felt something different. The chamber seemed alive, and shadows on the walls seemed to move on their own, taking on grotesque shapes. Asterisk, we must leave here now. This place is not dead. Asterisk, Emily insisted. Alan ignored her pleas and ordered them to continue exploring. However, when Marco tried to photograph a symbol on the wall, something happened. The chamber burst into cold flames, burning their hands. At the same time, the floor of the chamber began to vibrate, and a guttural sound echoed from the depths. You've opened the door. Asterisk, a low, hollow voice rang out, seeming to come from all sides. The team rushed out, but the evil had already been unleashed. As they fled, the fog around the cemetery seemed to thicken, and vague shapes lurked between the trees. The first night of excavation was over, but for Alan and his team, the true horror was only just beginning. The next morning, the cemetery seemed even more oppressive. The fog that had covered the place during the night had not dissipated, and a heavy atmosphere enveloped the village. The normally reserved villagers now avoided even looking at the archaeologists. Emily was growing restless. During the night, she had heard echoes from beyond, indistinct voices and moans that seemed to come from inside the crypt. She tried to convince Alan to abandon the project, but he would not listen. Asterisk, we are on the verge of something great, Emily. Historians will talk about us for centuries. A little superstition will not stop us. While Alan insisted on continuing, Marco was still dealing with the strange wound on his hands caused by the cold flames of the previous night. The village doctors could find no explanation for the burns that seemed to freeze instead of warm. Even so, Alan pressed for the team to return to the crypt. Inside the chamber, the atmosphere was even denser. The feeling of being watched was inescapable. The shadows seemed to twist with every movement of light, taking on human and grotesque shapes. Emily turned to the journal she had found the night before. The last few pages were written in hurried, blood-stained handwriting. They detailed the unholy ritual performed by the lost cult, an attempt to open a door to another world. The ritual had been interrupted by angry villagers, but not before they had cursed the place. Asterisk, they speak of a vengeful spirit, trapped here waiting to be released. Asterisk, Emily muttered to herself as she read. Alan ignored her discoveries, fascinated by a new find, a set of bones arranged in a circle in the center of the chamber. He ordered the team to investigate. When Marco balked, Alan accused him of cowardice. Asterisk, if you can't handle this, maybe archaeology isn't for you. Asterisk, reluctantly, Marco stepped into the circle to photograph the bones. As soon as he stepped into the center, the ground shook. A crack opened beneath his feet, revealing a chasm from which a distorted purple light emanated. Asterisk, get out of there now. Asterisk, Emily screamed. But before Marco could move, rusty chains emerged from the shadows, wrapping around his ankles. He screamed in agony as he was pulled down, disappearing into the darkness. The chamber was filled with deathly silence. The team stood frozen. Emily cried, and even Alan was speechless. When they finally tried to escape, the crypt door slammed shut, locking them inside. Asterisk, he's been taken. There's no denying it now. Asterisk, Emily stammered, trembling. As they tried to find a way out, whispers in the darkness grew louder, turning into eerie laughter. The walls of the chamber began to shift, revealing the faces of vengeful spirits trapped in stone. The amulet Emily had found began to emit a bright red light. She held it to her chest, feeling that somehow it was both a key and a curse. Asterisk, this isn't just archaeology, Alan. It's something much bigger and much more dangerous. Asterisk, Emily said, clutching the amulet tightly as tears streamed down her face. Alan finally began to understand the gravity of the situation, but it was too late. As he tried to approach Emily, a living shadow emerged from the ground. Its form was distorted, with long claws and eyes glowing like embers. The creature lunged at Alan, throwing him against the wall. Its voice echoed like 1,000 screams combined. Asterisk, you have opened the portal. You will be the sacrifice. Asterisk. Emily used the amulet, which seemed to repel the shadow for a moment. However, the creature merely laughed as if the object were a taunt. Asterisk, the key will not close the door. It will only complete the ritual. Asterisk. The remaining team, now reduced to Emily, Alan, and 2 assistants, knew they were faced with something they did not understand. As the ground continued to shake, ritualistic symbols began to glow on the walls, revealing the chamber's true purpose. It was more than a forgotten tomb. It was a forgotten tomb built to keep the door between worlds closed. But they had upset the balance. The crypt pulsed with a growing energy. The stone walls, once static and cold, now seemed alive, writhing as if a breathing organism were around them. Emily held tightly to the amulet, the only object that seemed to offer any protection against the shadows that surrounded them. Alan, still panting from the creature's attack, was beginning to lose his composure. His eyes fixed on the symbols glowing on the walls, and he mumbled incoherently about deciphering the message. Emily tried to bring him back to his senses. Alan, listen. This place was not meant to be discovered. It's clearly a seal, not a tomb. We need to get out and seal it before something worse happens. Asterisk, but Alan was obsessed. He interpreted the symbols as instructions for a ritual, convinced that completing what the cult had begun could appease the vengeful spirits and save their lives. Don't you understand, Emily? They tried to open the door, but they failed. Maybe that's the only way to control them. We have to finish the ritual. Emily stared at him in horror. Are you listening to yourself? You're talking exactly like the priests of this lost cult. This isn't control, it's destruction. While they argued, the 2 remaining assistants, Jacob and Lara, frantically explored the chamber in search of a way out. Jacob, using a flickering flashlight, noticed another passage that led to a smaller room. There they found an unholy altar. On it sat a dusty book, bound by rusty chains. Lara, look at this. It's a ritual book. But it looks burned around the edges. The pages were filled with descriptions of forbidden sacrifices and instructions for channeling the energies of the macabre relics the cult used. Lara turned to leave but froze. The room felt colder and the light from the flashlight began to fail. It was then that Jacob screamed. Living shadows emerged from the ground, enveloping his body. He struggled, but it was useless. With one last scream, he was pulled into the abyss like Marco. Lara ran back to Emily and Alan, terrified. "Jacob, he's been taken. We can't stay here." The shadows seemed to multiply, filling every corner of the crypt. The whispers in the darkness became deafening, mixed with screams and laughter. The energy in the main room grew so intense that cracks began to form in the floor, revealing cold flames emanating from a deep pit. Lara pointed to the altar where the book had been found. "I saw something there. Maybe it's connected to all of this." Emily ran to the altar and quickly leafed through the book. The last pages detailed what she had already feared. The amulet she carried was a key to the door. The cult had created the object to open the portal between worlds and bring in their higher entities. But the ritual was never completed. The final sacrifice had not been made. Alan, listen. This place is a trap. It was designed to keep the portal closed. If we use this amulet, we will open the passage completely. Alan did not listen to her. He took the amulet from her hands and began to recite the words described in the book. Stop, Alan. You will destroy everything. Emily shouted. But he was blinded by ambition, his mind already filled with the voices echoing in the chamber. The ground shook violently as he spoke the last words. The door between the worlds opened. A portal of purple and red light appeared in the center of the chamber. From it emerged dark figures shrouded in thick smoke. Their forms were grotesque, with distorted limbs and eyes that glowed like embers. They were the fruits of the demonic pact made by the lost cult, entities that should never have crossed over into the human world. One of them spoke, her voice reverberating in all directions. "Finally, we are free. You have brought the destruction we have been waiting for. Now this world belongs to us." Alan tried to speak, but was immediately grabbed by one of the creatures. With a sudden movement, he was thrown into the portal, disappearing forever. Emily and Lara, now the only survivors, ran to escape, but the crypt seemed endless. The passages stretched and changed as if the place itself was trying to trap them. As they ran, Emily began to notice something. The amulet still glowed, but now it seemed different. She read one last passage from the book she had picked up from the altar. The amulet not only opens the door, it can also lock the portal. But it demands a final sacrifice. Emily stopped, staring at Lara. "I know what I have to do. You need to get out of here. I will try to seal the door." No. You can't stay. We'll find another way." Lara protested. Emily smiled, tears streaming down her face. "There's no other way. Promise me you'll get out of here and tell the world. This can't happen again." Lara hesitated for a moment, but the chaos around her didn't allow for a different choice. The creatures advanced, and the shadows seemed more and more alive, swallowing everything in their path. "Emily, don't do this," she begged, holding her friend's arm. Emily shook herself off firmly, but her eyes were full of tenderness and determination. Go, Lara. Someone needs to survive to tell what happened here. They can't win." Lara, tears streaming down her face, ran toward the entrance, while Emily returned to the center of the chamber, where the portal pulsed like an evil heart. The shadowy figures continued to emerge, each one more grotesque than the last. They watched Emily with bright eyes, curious, almost amused by her courage. "You can't stop us, mortal. The world is already ours. You have only hastened the inevitable." One of the creatures whispered, its voice reverberating like thunder. Emily ignored the words, gripping the amulet tightly. She knelt before the portal and opened the ritual book. The pages trembled in her hands as she searched for what she needed. The book was clear. To seal the door, a sacrifice was required, a life in exchange for balance. Tears streamed down Emily's face, but she didn't hesitate. She closed her eyes and began to recite the words written in dried blood on the pages of the book. Lux et tenebri sanguis et vita claudatur porta. Vitam pro mundo clausura aeternam. The ground began to shake again, but this time the tremors felt different. The light from the portal wavered, and the creatures roared in fury, realizing what Emily was trying to do. You wouldn't dare. We will crush her before she completes the ritual. One of the creatures advanced, but was repelled by a burst of red light emanating from the amulet. Emily continued chanting, her voice gaining strength as the energy around her grew. The shadows tried to attack her again, but the amulet seemed to protect her, creating an energy field that kept them at bay. Each word she spoke caused the portal to shrink, its light gradually fading. In the distance, Lara saw the amulet glow through the darkness as she ran. The dark fog seemed thicker, and the living shadows tried to block her exit, but she did not stop. She knew Emily was risking everything to give her a chance to escape. Inside the chamber, the ritual was reaching its climax. The portal was almost closed, but the creatures would not give up so easily. One of them, larger and more grotesque than the others, launched itself at Emily with full force. Emily fell to the ground but held on tightly to the amulet. She knew this was the final moment. Asterisk, if you want this world, you'll have to go through me. Asterisk, she screamed, scrambling to her feet. With a final burst of energy, she held the amulet above her head and shouted the final words of the ritual. The light from the amulet shone brightly, flooding the chamber with a blinding glow. The creatures roared in pain and frustration as they were sucked back into the portal. The ground began to close, the cracks disappearing, and the chamber became cold and silent again. Outside, Lara reached the cemetery just in time to feel the last tremor. The fog slowly dissipated, and silence fell over the place. She looked back at the entrance to the crypt. Emily hadn't left. Lara knew her friend had made the ultimate sacrifice. She fell to her knees, tears streaming down her face as she whispered, "I promise, Emily. I will tell the world what you did." Weeks later, Lara gave her account to authorities and scholars, but few believed her story. The cemetery was sealed, and the entrance to the crypt was buried forever, this time with modern wards to ensure that no one else would disturb what lay hidden beneath the tombs. Still, Lara knew the danger was not completely gone. Emily's diary and the amulet she had retrieved before her escape remained a secret. She kept them hidden, sworn to protect the world from the horrors she had witnessed. But sometimes at night, Lara could still hear echoes from beyond. Whispers that came from nowhere, reminding her that some doors should never be opened again. And so, the door to the unknown has been closed, at least for now. Emily sacrificed everything to save the world, but the questions that remain are as frightening as the answers. Was the portal truly sealed? Or is something still lurking in the shadows, waiting for a new chance to cross the barrier between worlds? Stories like this remind us that sometimes, the darkest secrets are right under our feet, waiting to be discovered. But be careful. Tampering with what is hidden can have a price no one is ready to pay. And if you found this story disturbing, prepare yourself for what is to come. In our next story, we will explore an abandoned mansion with a curse that makes time stand still, and where the echoes of the past mix with the despair of the present. Don't miss the next video. Subscribe to the channel, activate the bell, and share this mystery with that friend who is not afraid to face the unknown. And you, do you think some doors should be opened, or are they better left locked forever? Leave your opinion in the comments. I want to know what you would do in this situation. Until next time, and be careful what's under your feet when night falls. Kendall.